Emory Erickson is one of the most famous figures in Star Trek, but who is Emory Erickson? Hey Trekkies, Christian Fox here with another video for you. Today, I want to talk about one of the greatest minds in Star Trek, Emory Erickson, and answer the question, who is Emory Erickson? Emory Erickson, a 22nd century Earth native, is the inventor of the transporter. He was good friends with Henry Archer, developer of the Warp 5 engine, and the reason that Trip Tucker himself became an engineer. Although the transporter is one of the most important inventions of the 22nd century, Erikson felt the need to outdo himself. This resulted in the subquantum transporter, which could theoretically transport people across hundreds of light years. Erikson and a group of volunteers, which included his son Quinn, tested the device. Unfortunately, the volunteers were lost, and Erikson was left permanently injured and confined to a wheelchair. Determined to find his son, Erikson spent the next 15 years trying to figure out what the heck happened and where he might be. Portrayed by Bill Cobbs, Erikson appears in the Star Trek Enterprise episode Daedalus. In the episode, Erikson comes aboard the Enterprise with his daughter Danica to test a new transporter method. Although initially very excited at the visit and the prospect of a new transporter, the crew discovers that it was all an elaborate lie concocted by Erikson to get himself aboard the ship and use it to find his son Quinn, who he believed was in the Barrens. Eventually, the crew is able to find his pattern in a subspace bubble and beam him aboard. Sadly, Quinn dies very shortly after materializing. This is a really interesting episode for a number of reasons. For one thing, it finally shows us who invented the transporter, something that we surprisingly didn't know for almost 40 years at the time of this episode, which came out in 2005. It's even more surprising considering that we know all about Cochrane who invented warp drive, but nothing about the guy that invented the transporter. Another thing that I find particularly interesting is the debates between Erikson and Archer's father, Henry, about which invention was the future of Starfleet, warp drive or transporters. This is something that would make for an interesting debate in future Trek, especially something like Disco where transporter tech is really advanced. It's also really fun seeing how important Erikson is to both Archer and Tucker, and that it's for completely different reasons. For Archer, Erikson is a father figure, and for Tucker, he's a childhood hero. All in all, it's a great episode depicting an important figure in Trek. Outside of his Enterprise appearance, Erikson's biography is seen in the Lower Decks episode, Grounded.